Welcome to the billionth bonus episode of the Godzilla podcast.
I thought this was the 10 billionth, Joe. I swear. We have enough. So
not quite that many.
You're definitely getting Godzilla Island no matter what. Obviously, we've hit that tier.
Godzilla Island? Yes.
But it's going to happen in a little bit because, like, aside from the commentaries we're going to have going on here, we got enough blockbuster current giant monster films coming out for the next
I don't think we know if they're
month-ish?
blockbusters yet, but...
Well, that they're coming out on big screen.
We do have
supposed to be
3
blockbusters.
kaiju adjacent, at least,
Yeah.
movies coming out within 2 months.
I thought you told me Ready Player One was coming out sooner than
Ready
this.
Player One is at the end of March. And then the beginning of April, first half of April, we're getting Rampage.
You want to know what's so funny about... So you just barely saw Pacific Rim 2, correct?
Yeah, my movie got out at 4:40, and it is 5:26.
Not even an hour ago to finish the movie in theaters. What's funny is the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in that preview for the movie he was in, the commercial right before watching Pacific Rim 2. I was like, oh, this is Rampage. I'm like poking my fiance, Rampage. And then it's like, I see him make the jump and I'm like, oh, this is that dumb thing on Twitter about him. Can he make that jump? It's like this thing they're trying to make go viral. Everyone's like, no, he can't make the jump. But anyway, I was like, it's in a big, how perfect is that though for Rampage? The video game, they're making a movie based off this video game where the monsters climb up a building and he's like, I'm protecting the world's biggest building. So I was thinking there's no way this isn't the premise for Rampage, and it totally wasn't. I thought that was hilarious though, because it set it up perfectly to be Rampage basically.
Yeah.
We got Rampage after Pacific Rim, Ready Player One,
and Rampage. And I guess you say that Mechagodzilla's in Ready Player One.
I didn't say that. G-Man said it.
Okay, he said
and
that.
Another confirmed thing, I believe, is that they're using Ifukube's original Godzilla score in there.
Okay, we
at
have
least
to see
as
it.
like a cue. Yeah,
It's adjacent. It's adjacent enough that we have to see it.
yeah.
So that's fine. We'll go see Ready Player One. Spielberg CGI fest is what I've seen in the trailer.
Yeah.
I guess it's based on a really popular book.
Yeah, I've actually listened to a little bit of that book, like a preview. It was fairly interesting.
Okay. So a lot of people they're really excited about it, except that I did see some YouTuber like go off and be like, Spielberg's done, he's finished, I tell ya. This movie's gonna suck.
I need to make
like,
people react against my controversial opinion and
the last
become
4
viral.
movies Spielberg has made were all nominated for Best Picture. He's not finished. The guy is still going strong.
Yeah, I mean, listen to our last
What is that
podcast.
crap?
We were talking about directors going in. Ridley Scott, he's around 80? Or
Yeah,
is he 80?
80.
Yeah.
He is
and then
80 years
Princess
old.
from the Moon director, he was about 90 when he directed that thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these directors can go
I mean,
forever.
they can still go. I mean, Spielberg is one who has. I mean, you may not be. I have a feeling that the guy did not watch all of Spielberg's movie. That's the thing that, like,
I have a feeling, like I stated at the beginning, Joe, he just
I have a
wanted
feeling
to...
the last movie that he saw from Spielberg was probably the 4th Indiana Jones movie, which, by the way, was 11 years ago.
That's nuts. You're talking about Crystal Skull?
Yeah, I'm talking about 2007's Crystal Skull.
Hey, well, to get back to our topic here, Pacific Rim 2, speaking of special effects...
I think that's an unfair
movies,
judgment from that a-hole on YouTube who I don't even know.
He just wanted to incite internet rage in order to become
I don't know if the movie will be good or not.
Moment.
It doesn't matter. I was kind of disappointed in BFG, but the post was good.
Yeah. I haven't seen a modern Spielberg film for a while. Like, Super 8 was only produced by him,
Super 8
right?
was J.J. Abrams'
I knew
movie.
it was J.J. Abrams, but...
you didn't see Lincoln?
Nah, I still haven't seen it.
Oh, that's really good.
And I really need to, because isn't that my favorite actor?
That was probably the last really good Spielberg movie.
What's his name?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes. I
That's
need
how
to see
he
that
talks
movie.
in Lincoln.
Special effects in movies. Pacific Rim 2.
And Tom Hanks and... Sorry, Drew, I'm going to cut you off.
True.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
The one where he has white hair.
It has a really bland title, so I always forget it.
It's the one where he saves the people.
No, Tom
In
Hanks.
the pilot?
No. That's a Clint Eastwood movie. Shoot.
Are you talking about a modern day Tom Hanks film? Because I do not know.
God, Drew, watch movies. All right, I'm getting here.
Dude, I watch movies. I watch old movies.
This is someone's screaming. Someone's screaming because it was a big hit, too.
This is the first time I've been to see a movie in theaters since last summer, because I just don't go to movies unless it's summertime.
Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks, what movie were you just in?
I don't even know his most...
Bridge of Spies!
Heard the name.
Bridge of Spies.
Pretty good.
Fantastic movie.
Oh.
Anybody who gives me that crap where Spielberg is finished because he hasn't made Jurassic Park in 20 years, don't give me that bullshit stuff.
So this podcast that somebody clicked on because I hear about giant monsters battling giant
anyway, I'm excited for
robots.
Ready Player One, but it's mostly because it's Spielberg. I don't give a crap about whatever it's actually about.
So Joe,
I just want to see what Spielberg makes before he dies because he's in his late 70s and I'm scared.
Oh, he's that old? Wow.
Yeah, dude, he's getting up there.
In good health, though, it seems.
He seems like it, yeah. He seems pretty, present, and that's the thing that they need.
Yeah. More present than George Lucas, I would assume, but that's a whole other thing.
He's also less depressed, seeming.
Well, he doesn't have fans, just...
okay.
Horrible
All right,
fans.
let's actually talk about
so many tangents. Pacific
the
Rim
movie,
2.
The Pacific Rim Uprising.
Yeah, I'm probably going to refer to it as Pacific Rim 2 over and over.
It's because it's a better title.
Not its title, yeah, but it should be. Uprising. Joe,
Uprising.
How long has it been since you've seen the first one?
Since it was out.
Me too. I was telling you right before recording this, I didn't finish my thought there. I saw Pacific Rim in the Blu-ray bargain bin at Walmart, and so I thought, that might be worth the purchase. And then just
I would have
last
bought
night,
it if I saw it. Yeah.
Well, I was really close, and then having seen Pacific Rim 2 with my fiance last night, which I didn't know she hadn't seen the first one. Otherwise, we probably would have seen that first.
It goes over the whole plot, Drew.
It doesn't, but a few things made more sense for her because we started watching the first one after we were watching Pacific Rim 2 at 5 o'clock, so we were out by 7, and then it's like, what are we going to do? Come home? Okay, let's watch Pacific Rim. We stopped by Walmart and I picked that up, and as we were watching it, little things about characters and just the world setup.
Yeah.
Just oh. So yeah, not completely necessary to watch the first before going into the second one, but come on, watch the first one.
Yeah, so it stars John Boyega and Scott Eastwood.
Scott Eastwood and this girl, the girl who built the tiny Jaeger.
And Charlie Day.
Her name's Cailee Spaeny or something, who, Joe... How old is Cailee Spaeny?
I guessed 18 when you were like, how old do you think she is?
This is her feature film debut. Cailee Spaeny. But you guessed 18. She's 20 years old.
20 years old, but if she's 20 now, she's probably 19 when she filmed the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. How old did you think she was?
I thought it was 18, minimum, I would hope.
Yeah.
But then I thought, she's trying to play a girl quite a bit younger.
Yeah, she's playing a girl younger, and I think she is really young looking, so she can pull it off.
And also short, really short. But yeah, great actress. John Boyega.
John Boyega plays the son of the
Pentecost.
Yeah, Mr. Pentecost.
Let's just say
from
Pentecost,
from the last movie, and I know that because they recapped a lot of crap in the movie.
I just thought, isn't that the funniest retcon to be like, oh yeah, he had a son.
He had a son he didn't talk about
at all.
Didn't even think of when he was about to die.
I guess.
Also,
where do we
Rinko
start?
Kikuchi looks like Hitler in this movie.
Hey. It's not wrong, but
the haircut is just odd.
Pacific Rim was 2013, Joe.
Yeah.
This movie has been delayed several times. We didn't finish Pacific Rim 1 before going to sleep last night, but seeing Rinko Kikuchi in the first film, that is John Boyega's sister, the savior of the world from the first movie, alongside, the guy's name was Raleigh, but it's something Hunan.
I can't remember.
Charlie Hunan is the actor. He would have been in this film, Pacific Rim 2, except he was in, Arthur, Legend of the Sword, or whatever instead. That movie I think it just bombed.
That poor guy.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know how well this movie's going to do. I'm guessing, just total shot in the dark, it's going to do better internationally. I think this would play pretty well to...
well, yeah, I mean, they shoved enough
audiences.
Chinese in my face that I was like, I wonder who's the main target audience here.
Speaking of which, some Chinese eye candy, Tian Jing.
Oh, yeah, she's
I'm
cute.
totally butchering her name, I'm sure. So in this film, it sets up a Shiori Corporation, which has been a corporation that's come to power 10 years after.
They're making Jaegers.
Yeah, which was just confusing to me at first. I was like,
just in case the aliens come through.
The exposition on that when she talks about what she's making, I was thinking, okay, so this is what I thought it was. A second, and they kept saying drone, so I might have just been like not thinking right. I thought they were making a brain that would allow it to be like all these Jaegers piloted by one person, like as in the brain would take over the part of the second person. That's what I thought was going to happen, but it did not because...
No, they were little dudes in suits in a different place. So the Jaegers were much better machines, is what it seemed like.
And, all over the place.
Yeah. So Drew, this movie's crap.
Joe,
I can't hold it in any longer, Drew.
I laud it for monsters versus robots, but it's like the movie progressively got less inventive and fun for me because I loved pretty much right out the get-go. You got Gypsy Avenger, which I think cool design, very similar to the original. John Boyega, good actor. Scott Eastwood, I've only heard he was like meh in the Furious series where he replaced is it Aaron something?
Oh, don't ask me actors' names right now. I've
You're
had a
done.
full day of podcasting, and then I watched this seizure fest of a movie.
So I've never seen Scott Eastwood in anything, but I heard he replaced the actor who died in the Furious series.
He's got his
and I heard
father's
he wasn't
upper half of his face.
I heard he wasn't that great in the Furious series. Haven't seen any of those movies, like the first 1.5. So I wasn't going and expecting a lot, but they're good actors. Anyway, when John Boyega and Scott Eastwood are about to face off against this, just guys, this whole thing's going to be spoiler filled. Just FYI, we don't care. So go watch the movie before you listen.
You're not missing anything. You can see the big plot twist from about a mile away. So
I still thought it was good, but I'm not giving it like an A+, but I liked the movie.
You liked the movie.
I thought it was enjoyable. It was good to see in theaters because giant monsters versus... It had a lot of story problems.
Well, yeah. Could you even focus on what the mechanics of the story were as you went along?
I just was like, okay, get to... I was about to say this is what interesting to me. Obsidian Fury. A Jaeger versus a Jaeger, and I thought that Jaeger was so cool that it shot all those rockets out. The sound effects they were using for like the rockets that were being blasted to the building, really cool. And then like its spine was a communication jammer. Like that whole design of it's like black with yellow or orange glow to it. I'm like, this is cool. If this is where this movie's going, I like it because like there's an opposing Jaeger force that's like black market, blah blah blah. This is all my thinking before the movie actually got into what it was. No, they killed it fairly quickly, and then it gets back into. I'm like, okay.
Well, really, I was at a place where I was like, I came here to watch kaiju, and all I'm seeing is freaking robots.
Well, I was just like, where can they go from the first one? Because it's big robots versus big monsters. What's something else they can show me?
They could have interesting characters or something.
Yeah, they didn't. We're gonna definitely get into those characters and the specifics of why that's like. Why did this? Why?
It's hollow as hell. That's why.
Yes, it really is. A lot of tell and very little show. But then the second hook that, again, that for me was probably the top. I'm like, ooh, I like Obsidian Fury. That's cool. Very interesting. As the movie goes on, we get the twist with Charlie Day's character being the bad guy.
Once again, saw that from a mile away.
See, the reason I didn't is because...
He's with her. Okay, they're getting... more.
You're talking.
He's evil. That's what I was like.
When you say her, you mean the alien brain?
I'm sorry. When I'm mumbling to myself, which is what I did in my head.
Extrapolate.
No. As soon like he has the weird thing, he has that weird moment with the other guy where he's like, "Do you remember that?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like it doesn't affect him or something like that. And then the fact that he's wearing, the fact that subtext is shown with the sunglasses on Charlie Day because he doesn't show his eyes.
Oh.
And thus he is hiding something. And subliminally, that was giving the audience clues as to maybe this is not the Charlie that you remember. And of course, then when they were talking about, this corporation's doing something evil, I'm like, it's him.
The Charlie that I remember had kaiju tattoos on his arms, which I was like, where'd they go? I think they attempted to show.
On his arm.
Yeah, but they showed it off in like the reveal scene where he kind of rolled up his sleeves, and then for the rest of the movie they didn't really. So I'm like, I guess they didn't want to put him in the makeup for it. Like when he's on the roof, it didn't show it, and I'm like,
he probably didn't want the makeup for it.
Exactly,
he didn't want to sit in the
exactly.
chair and wait for them to get that crap done.
But okay, point two, where it kind of made another step down for me, Joe, was. But I still thought it was very interesting when all the drone Jaegers kind of like morph into part. They go from being Jaegers to part kaiju.
Yeah,
I was
that
like,
was cool.
that looks cool.
That was cool.
So I'm like, yeah, roll with this. And wow, they can open portals into the other world where kaiju can come out. I'm like, this is really cool. The ending of the movie, though, is just more of what we got from the first movie. As in, like, 3 monsters, which, granted, they are 2 Cat 4s and 1 Cat 5. And I'm like, okay, interesting, cool battle. I loved when he's Gypsy Avengers pulling buildings down on top of that. Great visual.
Yeah, it comes from Godzilla.
But, yeah, exactly. And then it became a big one, and I'm like, couldn't think of it. I mean, visually still cool, but it like...
I'll give it the best part about this movie is the special effects.
Oh, yeah.
Special effects are fantastic, which is not normal for Hollywood these days. Sometimes there's good effects, sometimes there's bad. If you got this much CG in a movie, usually there's like some kind of not so good. Like I think of the Marvel movies that always have too much CG, and then like it's not as good either.
There was a thing on Avengers Ultron where they had like so many of the shots were just super CG, and
I just remember the first Avengers when Iron Man has to go fix something underwater. I thought it was the worst CGI shot I had ever seen in a modern movie.
So I didn't.
At that point, I was like, oh,
CG.
terrible.
I didn't finish the first one, but from the very outset of Pacific Rim 1, I'm watching this on Blu-ray on a 4K TV, pretty big. Yeah, they're much better. They're not bad, but I think what Guillermo, in the first one, I think what Guillermo, I always say his first name wrong.
Just don't worry about it.
Okay, Guillermo.
I'm sure he doesn't care.
Yeah, everybody says it wrong. Guillermo was going for, possibly with that movie, is when it's dark and rainy, is maybe making it look a teeny bit better with these effects.
Oh, it's hiding the effects.
Exactly. So I laud one critic's praise of the film where they put it fully lit during the daytime, these fights, and
just so it looks like Transformers.
But the action sequences were a lot easier to follow for like my eyes than any Transformers. Both of them. The Pacific Rim 2, that last battle, I'm like, oh, these people are fighting this monster. This is where it's going.
I have the opposite opinion.
Oh, you weren't able to... Okay.
Visually, this movie's...
Dude, have you watched...
Both the action scenes and the human scenes, I was like, did Michael Bay, in fact, direct this movie? Because it is chaos. And I was getting tired watching it. It was like, this is not, first of all, that interesting from a human level, so I'm not that devoted to what's going on here. And on another level, it was just like, this is too much jumping around and too much craziness.
Have you watched any of the last
as opposed to Pacific Rim and as opposed to the 2014 Godzilla?
Yeah. Where
the action is very clear in those movies, frankly, because they're directed better.
Mm-hmm. Stephen S. DeKnight, first, it's a directorial debut.
It's his directorial
Still
debut.
Produced by Guillermo del Toro, but who knows how much of his hand he had in that.
And we looked at his credits, and of course, television. It was... Transformers was the last thing he worked on as one of the writers for the Transformers universe.
The Cinematic Universe 2015, the Stephen S. DeKnight entered into their writing room, and so it immediately became apparent that's why he got picked to direct Pacific Rim, because he was saddled in with the Transformers.
I thought it was a mess. There were like random shots of the camera like going sideways, and then like there'd be like 6 frames, and then it would move on to something else, and so it was like the action to me was not clear. It might be more clear than a Transformers movie. I haven't seen the first Transformers in forever. I haven't seen the first Transformers since the year it came out, honestly. So I can't really like judge whether or not it's better than Transformers, but to me it was like, I know that the first Pacific Rim's action scenes were much from a geometry perspective.
That's what I'm speaking
It
about.
was just way better.
Retaining in your head where they're at, who's fighting who, what's going on.
I wasn't concerned. Where was the one that was the question for me? Not who or anything like that, but where.
Like where in the city? Well, for me, the only time it became unclear is if a monster like was hiding behind a building, or at one point there was one underneath the ground. But it was just like, it's still... So if there are 3 fights going on simultaneously, which there were during the climax for a bit before they all morphed together, it didn't like cut between the fights so much that I was confused. I just have seen these Transformers movies where I am just blown away by what I thought was incompetence in action direction, where I'm like, okay, it's a lot of explosions, but who's doing what? What's going on? Oh, a good guy died. I guess that doesn't matter. A Transformer, they get ripped apart all the time, and it's like it's inconsequential, and I forget who it is. But in this movie, I thought it was easy enough to follow, so I would actually argue that that is a strong point of the movie, was the monster fighting.
In comparison to Transformers.
Yes.
What about also, in comparison to the movie, last 3 monster movies
I'm saying,
just saw?
In comparison to the movie itself, because like the story part and the character development is... Dude. Okay.
I mean, there were, what are there, 5 credited screenwriters, so you know that they went through like 60 different people, and it feels that way. It feels like a giant mess.
What I could gather was that Guillermo del Toro, as early as 2014, had written at least, he had ideas for where the movie was going to go for, Pacific Rim 2. This movie, at least for the version that we got up on screen, is someone else's script. I can't remember the name of the person, but it was a totally different script. So this isn't Guillermo del Toro's vision. He approved it, obviously, being a producer.
I don't know if that means he approved it.
Approved it as much as he got his name on it,
If he doesn't have the rights to the thing, which he definitely doesn't because someone else is making it, then he, they might have just put producer to give him money.
Instead of doing this movie, he did Shape of Water, which went on to win Academy Awards.
Much better movie.
And, Joe, I got hints, and I was hoping throughout the movie... From beginning, I'm like, you know what I remember from Pacific Rim? The world was really colorful. The world had a lot of like bright neon colors, especially when he gets into the black market, like Ron Perlman's character's world.
It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, exactly. It felt very like, upon rewatching at least half of it, I still haven't finished that Pacific Rim 1 and rewatching it last night. It feels like it's world building, even when it's not giving me exposition because of all the stuff it's showing, and it feels Hellboyish in that it's like it's Guillermo del Toro-esque. I'm sure he has a prop person and a set designer.
Yeah, I think he has a certain production designer who goes to, and he has a certain cinematographer as well.
My goodness, it feels like a real world, although it's like a comic booky. And then this movie, I just kept having higher and higher hopes, and they were getting dashed as it went along because I was like, oh, it's kind of colorful at the beginning. And near the end, I was like, it's less colorful.
It also, the pacing of the movie is way too... You don't get any time with any characters.
Mm-hmm, the middle part, the huge middle chunk of the movie, I was very bored, except for action scenes.
There's no reason to care for John Boyega. So his one... sort of like his one flaw is that he has to live up to his father, which is so pushed to the side and not made a big deal out of.
It doesn't matter at all.
Doesn't matter. So your ability to sink into both John Boyega and his humor. Sorry, I'm saying the actor's name because I can't remember the name of the character. Yeah. Your inability to. You just can't sink in, and maybe if we had more time with the characters, maybe if this movie took a little bit more time in the first act. It could have helped a lot, but for me, it was just way too fast, way too mile a minute. It was also so much of like them explaining things as they're running around. It's like inaudible over explosion. You don't know what the hell's going on, Drew. I was like, why are they shooting? What's the rocket part? Like at the end scene, I'm like, what are they doing? What are they putting on his arm? Is it a bullet? What is it? And they're like, oh, they're rocketing towards him.
I could follow that.
I couldn't, man. I was lost in this almost the entire movie. I was like, okay, all right.
So the happiest John Boyega's character was in this movie was in the opening shots where he's like partying, and I was like, this is me getting to see him in his element.
Illegally getting sweets, I guess. Or something.
Which, again, when you're talking about those shots post that party, he's like, this is how the world works. This is how I am. Dude, the way that shot, like, you gotta do this, hustle for my cookies, hustle for my sauce. And the way they shoot that, it's so comical and, like, over the top. I'm like, okay, if this movie really goes for that style, this, like, over the top, hilarious, obviously just very self-aware, it just went somewhere else. And for the rest of the movie, he's so whiny. And he's just like...
I didn't think of him as whiny.
I thought of him as just like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. And at least in every behind-the-scenes type thing I've seen of John Boyega, the man himself, I'm not saying that an actor has to play to their personal strengths of how they actually are. But for me, I see John Boyega more as, in real life, as Finn from Force Awakens, where he's able to be this, like, yes, he can be comedic, but just, like, fun, happy dude. And he was very serious in this movie. And I'm like, John...
I don't necessarily see that. I just don't think his characters were written very well. I thought he played what he had very well, though. He's a good actor.
No, he acted it very well.
In fact, pretty much all the performances were good. There was a couple, like, little moments here and there, which I'm not going to mention, but were like some wooden dialogue that was made into wooden acting. That wasn't as great, but the actors' performances for what they were given, not too bad. Evil Charlie Day was a little weird for me.
He needed to have, in my opinion, the, like, secondary voice, like the voice filter on him that he had for just a moment.
Yeah, he has it for a couple parts, yeah.
Yeah, but then, like, when he's on top of the roof, when he's actually implementing his, like, final plan, you know, it's just his voice. And I'm like, Charlie Day is not an evil mastermind.
We've had too much time with that actor as a comedic character.
Yeah, and the fact that they didn't give him that voice filter that made him, like, the evil, you know, guy.
I don't know. I don't think he did a bad job, but it's just like it just man, the retconning too in this movie.
Yeah.
From the first one, like, oh, suddenly there's a sun. Oh, suddenly the kaiju blood is rocket fuel. Oh, like, all of a sudden there's a ton of retconning. So that part was like, that was kind of making me like, oh. And then the camera movement was making me, oh. And the movie, Drew, is awful.
Homage to the first film is when the girl who, her name's Cailee Spaeny, I don't know the actress's name. She's the young girl who built the small kaiju, the small Jaeger. She built a small kaiju. Her thing where he, like, is memory, when they're, like, fused together, he sees her memory and her parents die.
Oh, that was the best part of the movie.
See, it was very emotionally impactful. I mean, just the being in the theater, very loud, the, like, soundtrack that was playing along with that.
There was no payoff for it either.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is it felt super emotional, but I'm like, okay, it's in loving homage to the first film, but it's just, I don't want to say generic, but it is. It's just like generic tragic character backstory that didn't have a payoff, because in the first movie,
there's a huge payoff.
There's a huge when Amako Mori or whatever's character is almost killed by that kaiju. By the way, that kaiju is fought by the trainees in the movie. It's like this crab monster when they're in the simulator. I was like, oh, back a reference to the original. But the payoff and the tie-in with that movie is that in that same memory, you're shown that that's when, what's his face, the father of John Boyega's character, saved her. And it's like, oh, that's a revelation to the audience in that film. So
also,
simultaneously,
I have a son. That's what he says in there.
Yeah, no, he didn't have a son. It's just, the only thing that the whole movie added to the Pacific Rim universe was that Charlie Day is going to be like the new bad guy. It didn't add anything else to the Pacific Rim universe.
Or they're going to travel to the alien planet and destroy it.
See, but that's not added in this film. That's added in the next one, Joe. It's kind of like, this feels like a sub-story in the Pacific Rim universe that we didn't need to see. The first movie you needed to see, and it's set up so much.
Oh, the first movie had good characters, great action. I left the first movie going, yeah. Like, I basically did a fist pump, and I was like, that was awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly the awesome. Okay. Great movie. And then this movie I left, and I was like, That's the level of difference between the two.
We started talking about John Boyega's character in the movie. He keeps talking about, and Scott Eastwood's character tells him once, "You could have been great." And I'm like, I didn't see that. I don't know that. As far as I knew, buddy, you didn't exist in this universe at all. The weirdest shot, Joe, was when he had the photograph of himself, and I think her name's Amaka Mori or something like that. The
Rinko Kikuchi.
Thank you,
That's
Rinko,
the name of the actress
from the first movie that saved the world. So the shot of Pentecost, Idris Elba, John Boyega, and her, and he's John Boyega. It's not like he's young. So I'm like, he was definitely in the picture during the events of that first movie, but he wasn't. I hate to harp on that, but at the same time, I'm like, come on, guys. He didn't need to be... I mean, we were talking about it again in Princess of the Moon, where he's built to be this, like, chosen one character, but he didn't need to be. Like, he should have proved himself to both the people in universe, in the story, and us, the audience, like, by doing something. Because the only thing he did in the movie to show that he was actually good at anything was, like, this final effort to destroy the giant kaiju, to, like, land on it. Because before then, he failed to save his sister, the savior from the first movie, that Asian girl.
Rinko
Kikuchi, thank you. Failed to save her. He's just like failing, and doesn't seem to really be progressing or having like a story, character arc. And then I think my favorite shot of the movie, Joe, was after they killed that giant, the like god kaiju, the formation of all three of them, and they're playing in the snow with each other. I was like, I like this. This makes me feel good, and I want these characters to be this way. It's just like he didn't feel like he changed at all.
He didn't
have to change.
He didn't change a damn bit.
Because in the end, the character who defeated that god kaiju, he just followed the style that he had at the beginning of the movie, being like this crazy party guy who's wild and like didn't learn anything, didn't change. If the next
still
movie
has a sense of humor,
yeah, if there is a next movie, he's a washout again. He's back on the streets doing the same thing. I'm guessing the Cailee Spaeny character, young, built her own,
because he's gonna go and get the other kaiju.
Well,
yeah,
I think he's gonna scrub out again, just like be gone and have to be found again, and,
dude,
and won't develop again.
So you thought this was okay? You thought this movie was okay?
It's good for the giant monster battles.
Okay.
And
all right, so you know what? This is a kaiju podcast. We watch much worse movies than this. All Monsters Attack being the one.
Joe's favorite.
So, you know, maybe our listeners might have a pretty high tolerance for bad movies with cool monsters in it. The monster design is really good. Yeah. The special effects are really good.
Oh, beautiful. The shot that I wanted to
like good action in it.
Name was they had quite a few really good effects, like 360 shots around characters, and it was almost a full 360, if not a full one, when the formed kaiju, all three of them together, come right up to Charlie Day on the top of the roof and like look at him, and then it walks by him. That's when I was like, hey, this is in bright daylight. The color on this like giant monster, it's like green, yellow, all the detail texture, and Charlie Day's like one line like, oh, hello. He just has to say the slightest little thing, make the tiniest comment, and it's so funny. So funny. The same within the first movie. So not the greatest big bad guy, although I liked the twist. I didn't see the twist coming. Joe apparently saw it coming because he knows how to read subtext in movies with glasses.
No, I mean that was subtle, but I assume that's why I was thinking he must be bad, is because they put a big huge red flag in that sort of way. I did see it coming though, Drew.
What did you think of our character?
There's a twist at the end of Tomb Raider that I also saw coming. So all I'm seeing are really easy to see plot twists in these movies lately.
Character Tian Jing, the character from Kong Skull Island. She's the head boss woman of the Shiori Corporation. Yeah, she was in Kong Skull Island. What did you think of her character progression? Because she went from being super rude.
She was always a strong character, but obviously, like when push comes to shove, she really can get her hands dirty.
Yep.
I guess that probably makes her the best written character in the entire movie.
Well, it's that she had a
enjoy it, China.
Well, she went a 180, Joe, seemingly, because at the first she's just rude, cutthroat, blunt. I guess not rude, but like knows what she wants.
No,
this lady.
Yeah, she
seemed to be the bad guy. And then by the end, she like saves everything. So I'm like, you literally went from being like the worst, or what we thought was the bad guy of the movie, to saving the movie.
The twist being that we misread her is what we are as audience members.
We may have misread her, but she was not a nice lady.
No, she was not nice, but she was in the right. So who cares?
Yeah.
Charlie. Oh my gosh, Drew. I can't recommend this movie. I can't. Charlie
can't be the main bad guy. He's not. He's like he's the Weasley sidekick crony to the bad guy that like is praising.
Also ruined the lovability of that character in many ways.
Yeah,
you still love the actor, but
it's the other professor guy, the one who's the math professor. They're like a duo in the first movie. Him alone just wasn't doing it for me. It's the way the two play off each other, and you subtracted Charlie Day's character from it. Yeah.
Yeah, Drew. There's a kid in the front row that really loved it. So if you got little kids, they'll probably love it.
If you can't read the movie story, you're gonna like it. Once you put it under not even a microscope, but like you're looking at it closely, it's like, man, the characters in this movie, not great.
And the directing, honestly, is, in my opinion, not good.
It's a directorial debut, so.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, whatever that is for scene geology. I remember there's the one scene where him and Clint. Sorry,
Mr. Eastwood Jr.
Mr. Eastwood, Scott Eastwood
Jr.
Right?
You're talking about in the kitchen?
Scott Eastwood, yeah, in the kitchen, which is probably the best character scene in the movie. I thought I thought so too. That it was covered as far as camera placement.
You're talking about medium shot,
and where the characters were looking and the way that the props were used. I honestly thought it was bad.
There was a couple of what I perceive as ad-libs done by John Boyega. I was
like, wow, this could be... Why? Okay, so this scene is fun if I were to read it.
Yeah, that's actually... Joe, that'll get into... our next movie, because I think the same thing about the next movie we're commentating on.
I think the execution was poor, not from the actors.
No. And I actually think that the actors' lines were written better in this movie than in Pacific Rim. It felt less clunky. It felt more natural.
Really?
Maybe it was Charlie Hunan's performance, because to me in the first movie, and that's the only thing I can give as a down really from the first movie, he never is 100% there as I perceive it to be. It seems like he's almost yeah, I know what kind of movie I'm in, blah blah blah, or just they have so much to set up in this universe in Pacific Rim 1, where I left Pacific Rim, the first movie back in 2013, going okay, you don't go into it for the story, the character story. You go in for the giant battles. Now, having seen Pacific Rim 2, I'm actually, Pacific Rim 1 story is a shining diamond, and the monster battles are just as good.
Cherry on top.
But, to compare the climax of this film to Pacific Rim 2, or Pacific Rim 1, sorry. Dude, Pacific Rim 1 had the revelation of aliens bringing these monsters into the world. They travel into the aliens' world and blow them up visually. Just breathtaking and, idea-wise, so out there, and I loved it. The ending of this movie is he almost jumps into a volcano when they punch him. I'm come on, you actually went down. Like I said, I love the Jaeger on Jaeger because of the design of the other Jaeger.
They didn't top it at all.
It went down, and I loved the idea of these mecha Jaeger fusions, but then they were just destroyed by software ex machina. She just and what did you say?
I'm doing a thing in programming.
And the board, I know it's a visual for the audience, but the wall of the 3D computer screen, it's fleshy and overgrown with kaiju.
I'm you can read that?
Is this a software? Because why would it be showing this?
Yeah, kaiju software, yeah.
Yeah, they had
a whole art department work on that.
So stuff like that.
James Bond does that a lot too. Or like, yeah, like they have like the touchscreen bull BS computers. Like no one would find that. That's in no way is that practical.
Any hacking in a TV show or movie, like the things that are popping up on screen are like just these crazy windows and like numbers going across. You make it look super exciting. Well, that was kind of that scene.
I think the only good hacking scene in any movie is probably Social Network.
I still need to see that. I'm going
to hack into the database. And all he does is he's just like, yeah, I'm done. All right.
Because of you, I've listened to the soundtrack.
Soundtrack's great. Man.
I have lots of little things.
The soundtrack's good in this movie, actually.
Yeah.
But I mean it's
like, as stated, music
from the last movie.
The memory that the young girl character is like John Boyega is part of because they merge consciences. That soundtrack almost brought me to tears, like the score during that scene. But upon thinking about it, I'm like, man, there's so much less payoff than the first
below
one.
The belt for no reason.
Exactly. And then, so that callback to the first movie didn't pay off like the first movie. The thing that did for me, because I thought that was one of the most brilliant things about Pacific Rim, the first one, that Rinko Kikuchi,
you're close.
Kikuchi. Rinko. I'll just say Rinko. Rinko and Hunan's, I don't know his first name, characters at the end don't kiss.
Yeah, I mean, that was like,
great.
Yeah,
I was so happy.
Yep.
And then obviously it wouldn't happen because she's like a little girl and John Boyega. But the fact that they saved the world and they're just like throwing snow at each other and honestly having fun. I was like, I love this character interaction so much.
The first Pacific Rim is a huge political statement about cooperation beyond all lines and genders, and that the entire thing was that there wasn't a romantic subplot. It's that they were able to be platonic and get things done and be on an equal level. That was a huge thematic part of the first Pacific Rim. They kind of carried it over in the second one. There's certainly a very diverse cast and stuff like that. And when they sexualize the one lady, it's not like overt. They didn't. I think they.
Which lady?
I think there was
so little sexualization in this movie that I honestly don't know who you're talking about.
Eastwood and John Boyega, and then there's the
girl that does nothing but just shows up. And,
yeah, she's very pretty.
Yeah.
When John Boyega is like checking out her butt. They don't frame her butt like they normally would in a Hollywood movie.
You're right.
I think that they did frame her butt and then thought in the edit, we need to crop this and move it up because the shot was awkward looking. But they did make that decision. I honestly strongly believe that it looked like 4K footage that had been cropped to move up in the frame.
So I hadn't noticed that there, but before they enter into the Obsidian Fury, like after Gypsy Avenger kills it, when the young recruits, which I kind of want to talk about them for a minute, when they are on the
X-Men First Class, go ahead.
Yeah, like the young kids, they should have appealed to a younger audience. And honestly,
no one gives a shit about. Yeah.
Well, us as 20-something-year-olds, we don't. Why wasn't the advertising towards like these young kids?
Drew, I totally disagree with you, but go ahead.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Why?
Drew, okay, I got this theory that that there's executives in Hollywood and there's parents who believe that this is true and that it's totally not true at all.
Okay.
You ever see the movie E.T.?
Of course.
Okay. How much did you watch it as a kid?
Like a couple times, but I've seen it more as an adult.
Yeah. You have seen it more as an adult, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's a better movie for adults than it is for kids. And it's got kids in it. Drew, how many times you watched Jurassic Park as a kid?
A billion.
A billion times. What characters did you care about in Jurassic Park, Drew?
The main dude.
The adults in the movie. It has nothing to do with the age of the characters. They're good characters.
Don't peek the audio, Joe.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
I'm sorry. It drives me nuts. The idea that I have to see someone my age in a movie in order to be swept up into a movie is BS. And I know it's BS because as a kid, my favorite movie was The Matrix. You know how many kids are in The Matrix? Drew, there's a little robot baby, and that's the youngest character in the Matrix.
I don't think you have to either, except that in the final battles of these movies, I'm just like, I'm not necessarily relating to these young characters.
Drew, as a kid, weren't you always pissed off at the kid character?
Only because because the adult characters in the movie were pissed off at the kid character, and so I could read
and the
that.
adult characters were always more interesting.
Yep.
No kid wants to be a kid. They want to be an adult.
The reason I don't know if I can fully believe the Jurassic Park one, just because as a kid, the reason I didn't want to be those kids is because of the scene when they were trapped in the kitchen with the raptors. I was terrified of that. So of course I didn't want to relate to those kids because I didn't want to be killed by a freaking raptor.
I like when I was a kid, I liked the second Jurassic Park a lot, and there's no kid characters in that. There's a teenage girl.
And that kid was genuinely stupid. The kid in the first Jurassic Park.
Which one, Sam or Lex?
The boy.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, he was genuinely...
No, he was a smart kid. He knew a lot about dinosaurs. That's
I've been misremembering him as dumb.
Yeah, and he goes around.
He made good decisions.
He talks about... I don't think survival decisions he was very good with.
But I just thought...
Drew,
they could have marketed it. Okay, then I'm wrong.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong.
Your theory is that opposing my viewpoint.
It's something I hear from people a lot. It's like, well, they'll relate to the kid character, and I'm like, I can remember what movies I watched as a kid really well, Drew. That's the problem. I know that. How many movies did I love that were starring kids, and the kids were the interesting part?
None.
Not a damn one. I think maybe Pokemon the TV show.
Yes, and
which
movies
had a 10-year-old who, and you watch,
and then arguably we're in it for the fantasy of the jealousy of them being able to capture and battle these monsters.
You know what? That
hook.
Is kind of the exception.
Fantasy.
Some cartoons maybe, but at a certain point, I don't think the 19-year-old who was playing a 15-year-old. I don't think that anybody's gonna latch on to that character. I don't see that.
The moment that I realized those young cadets were the ones going into the final battle, I thought, oh, we're gonna have to see some of them die. This is bad. It's okay when adult soldiers die because they've lived somewhat of a life, but these are freaking teenagers, and I'm like, they're gonna be killed.
Plastic surgeon's kids.
Exactly,
his hand poking up.
And I was like, that kid got made fun of. And he died.
He just gets the short end of the stick the entire movie.
Yep, exactly. But as far as diverse cast, I love that the movie, the in-universe and story justification for that is that the world has to unite to kill these kaiju. Yeah. So all of a sudden you have Russian, Middle Eastern, Japanese, Chinese, all these races, ethnicities from all over the world coming together. I really like that. And being a fan of Ender's Game, I see those recruits and I'm like, that's Ender's Game. There you go.
Well, Guillermo del Toro, he writes in allegory, so he that was all on purpose in the first. Yeah, in the first one.
Again, Joe, this movie didn't add anything to the Pacific Rim universe.
No.
Didn't add a single thing. It added the possibility that for the precursors could infect the mind of somebody. I didn't know that. And then also it added the rocket boosting thing, which is so inferior to anything from the first movie. And just now we can get there faster. Look, I don't care about the logistics of you getting there faster. Just get there. You can get there before with helicopters. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. And it added that Charlie Hunan's going to be the bad guy in the next movie. And that they're going to go to the precursor world in the next movie. But other than that, they didn't build anything onto the universe. They just they sat in the universe, and this feels like a side story. It's a good side story as far as fights. And man, I loved that second fight with Obsidian Fury where they take it down. I didn't recognize what the heck they were doing at that base in the snowy place. I'm like, what was the point of that? Apparently, that was where Obsidian Fury was.
I didn't even think about what the point was because I couldn't follow what they were doing in the movie. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, the point of it was apparently that was Obsidian Fury was waiting at. That was its base of operations.
Okay.
Which
weird.
Why the Rinko actress? Why she didn't just tell them that?
Why she call her Hitler? Because that's what she looks like in this movie. You just need to add a little mustache.
Joe, her last speaking lines to John Boyega were so horribly ADR'd. So badly
almost all
ADR'd.
Of her stuff was ADR'd. But
it didn't seem as bad until she was having the face-to-face with John Boyega. And when she had the...
She's got a thick accent, Drew. She's got a thick accent.
Some notable that I thought ad-libs by John Boyega. The eating the sprinkles out of the side of his fist, which almost like failed when he's talking with Scott Eastwood. We were talking about the best character drama development.
Yeah, he has
scene
bad. First off, that movie is horribly directed. Or that scene is horribly directed.
Yes, but
second off, the sprinkle play is not on point.
No.
I was paying attention to the sprinkles more than I was the character.
Exactly. It's
like he took a huge thing of sprinkles. There seems to be less sprinkles coming out of his hand than what I was promised.
He did
and I never saw the ice cream with the sprinkles on it. That's what I was in the entire scene for. I was like, give me the mountain of sprinkles on top of this ice cream. You never saw it.
There's no payoff there, yeah.
Oh, jeez. Drew, I'm hating this movie more and more than I'm talking about. It's driving me nuts. Look, kids will like it. If you're okay with just turning your brain off and just watching giant robots, good. If you liked the first movie, you're going to hate this freaking movie, dude.
It's far inferior to the first.
Oh, no.
Which I've already stated it. But when you take a movie, Pacific Rim 1, that I went out of going, dude, anybody who wants to see monsters versus giant robots, that's it. Go for it. Just who cares about the story, the characters, the character arcs, and anything with the human characters. When you watch this movie, and suddenly it like makes the first one look pristine in that area. Like, that's bad. That's not good.
All right.
I think we
finished Pacific Rim. I want to nail my point down though more. Okay. So that's Pacific Rim. Thank you, everybody. You can go home. Drew.
And now I have to sit here for this.
I'm gonna give you that.
I'm doing this for you guys.
I'm just listing off movies that I watched a bunch as a kid. You got to tell me if you agree. Jaws.
I never saw that until I was a teenager.
Oh, you poor man.
Well, I went into that movie, Joe, thinking, this movie's
a million times.
This movie's popular for the gimmick of like, having jump scares. Then I watched it and I was like, this movie's great.
I know. A great movie.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I watched that movie about 1 billion times as a kid.
10 billion. All right.
Okay. Rush Hour 2.
I watched all the Rush Hours when they came out when I was younger. I thought they were great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many kids were in those movies?
Not a single one.
Not a single
but it's because
damn
of the
one. Star Wars, Drew.
Oh, I watched that a ton because my parents are big Star Wars fans. So
that's the only reason. You didn't love Star Wars?
Well, I watched them gladly when they would put them on.
Right.
Obviously.
Drew, how many kids are in Star Wars?
There's a lot of younglings killed, and
No, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about the crappy ones. I'm talking about the ones that you probably watched 1 million times.
Well, if you count,
also in those crappy ones, all you were doing was waiting for the Darth Maul fight.
If you count the Jawas, who are probably hooded small people.
Yeah.
No.
Did you connect to those characters? No. You didn't. You didn't
I guess
do a damn thing in that movie, did you? No kids in those movies. Indiana Jones.
I never saw those.
There's a kid in the second one. He's the most, and it's the reason you don't watch the second one.
He's built up as being the annoying kid. I know him so much more from the Goonies. Yeah,
Drew. It's the worst theory, and I'm not blaming you for this because a lot of people believe this.
Wait, did you just say that your theory is the worst theory?
No. I'm saying that the theory that you need a character that looks like you in a movie in order to latch on to the characters is bull crap. I've watched so many. You know how Japanese I look, Drew?
I'm pretty Japanese, Joe.
No, I don't look Japanese at all. You know how many freaking movies I watched from Japan? Drew, what is the last movie that made you cry?
Departures.
It's filled with Japanese people, wasn't it? Yeah. Do you have any connection to Japanese culture?
I had a human connection.
You have a human connection because they're human characters. They're good characters. It's drawn out. It's a great story. You're gonna love it. You're gonna get pulled into those characters. Give me an. Have you seen Gravity?
Of course, yes.
Gravity. Okay, female character, right? Female lead.
No, I really.
Okay, you were roped into it.
Did you need more to George Clooney?
Oh yeah, you needed to be roped into George Clooney, didn't you? No, you didn't, because she was a great character. That movie's a great movie.
Just pestering you.
You don't need any freaking kids in any movie. First off, and you don't need any kids in any movie.
I don't
to sell it. You don't.
I don't disagree. Yeah, with either point. Nope, I don't disagree with either.
Okay. All right. Sorry for shouting.
No,
I think Godzilla podcast doesn't hear me shout very often. It's just I'm not actually like mad. I'm just making a point.
Worked up
in a very over the top sort of way. It's all right. I'm just saying, Drew. I watched a ton of movies as a kid. I watched a lot of movies over and over again, and almost none of them had kids in them. There's a couple. Like Lion King had the cub.
For me, I think that my most viewed...
But I would still watch Lion King today.
My most viewed entertainment as a child would have been Power Rangers. So for me, it's watching kids older than me. Because I had
that might be something, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, is they were still like, they weren't adults, so I couldn't... I'm not going to relate to an adult thing, but I related... The kids older than me were cooler. You know,
I mean, unless we're talking about
a kid, elementary school age. Well, I was like
but if
3rd,
we're talking
4th,
like
5th grade.
11, 12.
Suddenly, even other teenagers not so interesting to watch.
I mean, Drill Bit Taylor is a much better movie to like junior high school students.
Yeah,
and then like Superbad is a movie for adults
that everybody should enjoy.
Everybody watched as a high schooler.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those had high schoolers in it, so maybe, okay, that didn't quite make my point.
I think it might be more subject matter than mostly characters.
How good the movie is,
and
how well drawn the characters are. And you know what? If you make a pretty darn good movie, you're going to have more people that connect to it, regardless of age.
True.
Regardless of age, gender, race, anything.
All I'm saying is I thought it was... that's what brought on this not rant, this point of not contention, but a soapbox that Joe has went on and to say his theory. I just thought it was interesting that they chose to make the combatants in this final climactic battle of this movie young kids. I was like, that is a twist. And the fact that we weren't shown that they really had any combat experience. They did real good. I mean, I'm assuming they had real combat experience. Never showed us it. Just like they never showed us how John Boyega was pretty great at one point. They just kept saying it, and I was like, shut up. You didn't show me any of that. It didn't actually happen. Yeah. So Pacific Rim 2 for me, I mean, you said we're already over, and we were and are. I'd give it a B+.
That's pretty high.
I'd give it a B+ for the monster fights.
I'd give it a D+.
Don't go into it for story, character-wise, at all.
Actually, you know what? Maybe a C-. I'll give it a C-.
Because, again, it's just the way the characters are written.
Grade.
Joe and I both don't have a problem with the performances.
I just wasn't in the movie. I wasn't pulled in any way. Yeah. And then when you aren't pulled into a movie, all you can think of are flaws. So that's a real problem.
Little things about the movie that I just, overthinking it. John Boyega totally killed those 3 guys. He left them to die. The 3 guys at the beginning of the movie when he's stealing that thing and locks them in there. Yeah. They're just starving to death down there.
Starving to death
and then,
in a box.
Yeah. And the Jules character, the one that kisses both Scott Eastwood and John Boyega right before their final battle.
Yeah, they're having a threesome.
Yeah. Woo! Rated G podcast. So kids.
That means is 3 things.
Number 3.
3 something.
But Joe, she
Sum of 3.
did nothing in the movie.
No.
But be a point of contention for John Boyega, and because the characters weren't written well enough to have contention built in. And the fact that Scott Eastwood... So, the whole Jaeger program completely forgave John Boyega and just took on this little girl out of nowhere to suddenly become a Jaeger pilot, where I'm like, you have an entire world of people to choose from, and you chose her, and you have an entire world of people to choose from.
I dare you, Drew. Again,
with him being the chosen one, Joe, it makes the smallest bit of in-universe sense, because Jaegers actually use your consciousness and your DNA to fight, And Pentecost, his father, had some pretty good Jaeger fighting skills, so maybe he passed that on genetically.
How come they never have Jaeger shots?
In the Jaegers?
Why?
Oh.
That's all I was thinking. Every time someone says Jaeger, I think Jägermeister.
You'll notice, I think Eren Yeager in Attack on Titan. But,
wow, okay.
Anyway, the main character from that thing. Joe, the setup of the interior apparatuses of a Jaeger in the first movie, very physical, lots of it actually looks low tech compared to this new stuff. It's actual moving gears and pistons that are attached to the...
I think that's probably I think they did that on purpose.
It's a style choice.
Bit in this one, yeah.
Yes, but what I'm saying is in this one, it's more holograms, where I'm it's not as weighty.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as physically moving, the character's actually doing something, although I still give those actors credits for acting so well in those suits, and in the big Jaegers. And also, the suits that the Jaeger
Suits
like
are great.
but that they're good. But Joe, you watch the first one, they are gorgeous. Like they have the one that the main character in the first one and his brother wear before his brother dies, but it's not a spoiler because it happens in the very beginning of Pacific Rim. There's like some battle damage on the suits that they're wearing. It's like they're obviously well worn, and then when he suits up with Rinko's character, these suits that they're wearing have this black reflective material that I was like, my God, that's so beautiful. And they're just kind of like a flat one color in this new one, where I'm like, it's just not as like the set designer and stuff. They did what was like required, but the world doesn't feel as lived in. I'm like, that's just being nitpicky.
Yeah.
But the movie worked. It worked, except for the story failings. I don't think it deserves.
It didn't work.
Half of it worked.
True,
Half of it worked for me. The whole thing didn't work for you. Is that fair to say?
I'd give it, I think my C- like grade is about right. They barely passed. Like, I'm watching it. I watched it and I was like, oh, that was disappointment. That was like super mediocre. It's not a bad film. It's not Attack, All Monsters Attack. It's not like bad.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything overtly bad.
It's all just mediocre. It's so deeply mediocre.
Yeah, it's very. Yeah. I mean, really, because the middle of the movie is so boring. Everything's predictable. What's going to happen? So just watch the fights.
They win.
I want to. Yes, but no, I want to see the fights over and over. I don't care about all this other stuff. I just want to, as a final...
We were supposed to be done 10 minutes ago.
We were. The final parting thing that I think is very interesting, Joe, is the pushing back of the release of this film. So when you're looking up stuff about it, not critical response, release. Joe. Okay. Originally scheduled for release on April 7th, 2017. It's almost a year ago.
Scheduled?
Yeah. To be released April 7th last year. The film was pushed back to August 4th, 2017, pushed back to February 23rd, 2018, and finally to when it was released.
Whoa.
So actually thinking about it,
they filmed it a while ago.
If that's when it was supposed to be released, she might...
18.
Oh, maybe not.
She was 18.
She could have been close.
They wouldn't have hired... Like, I
think they would have hired her if she was 18 because child labor laws and stuff.
Because it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So yeah, you would hire a 17-year-old. Yeah. Or you would hire an 18-year-old to play someone younger. So she was totally 18.
I don't think it deserves the scores it's getting, which are in the 40% on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic. I don't think it's that bad.
Is it 40?
It's in the 40s right now, which is sad.
What? Hold on. I thought I saw way higher numbers.
While Joe's looking that up, I noted a couple of times...
Pacific Rim Uprising.
Joe, you looking it up with a... It's not Siri. What's the Siri equivalent on an Android?
I don't know. You're just talking to it, and then it gives you... Oh, man. 47%. Okay. All right. Rotten Tomatoes is sometimes right.
Oh, man. Joe, I would not go... Personally, don't give it that low of a score.
Audience score is pretty low, too. 57%.
I think with what Pacific Rim gave us... Man, it's just astounding me, and it will not stop blowing my mind how much better the character story looks in Pacific Rim in comparison to this. So... I've said it about 3 times. Tian Jing, for the final time. The reason she's put in the film, the character who's the head of the Shiori Corporation, is to play to Chinese audiences. Because that's the reason she was in Kong Skull Island. Apparently she is a very popular, well-known actress over there right now in China. You stick her in a American blockbuster or something that's going to be an international movie.
Story. Okay.
Yeah, but that she was in... So I heard, not confirmed, I haven't really looked it up, I heard that certain things with her in Kong Skull Island were extended for the Chinese audiences. Yeah. So I'm only assuming they're going to do the same for this movie.
It's becoming the biggest growing market, and will probably someday...
it makes or breaks film franchises, movies.
It will probably
studios.
Someday eclipse the amount of money that it makes domestically. There are certainly some movies that make more money over there than over here.
Yeah, World of Warcraft
10 years ago was like, what? But now it's becoming
the norm more and more. as
And
the Chinese government has loosened grips on like
that's
entertainment.
why we got the Chinese scenes in The Martian and
a
whole bunch of other things. So,
but
it's fine. I can feel it when it's happening, though. I didn't feel it during, everybody else felt it. I didn't feel it during Rogue One. Like, I didn't feel like,
I didn't feel that
because
either.
I was like, I freaking love Donnie Yen. And the idea that Donnie Yen was going to be in a movie, I was like excited. But her and the scenes in The Martian are very, very much like, hey, China, we got some good stuff for you. Like,
watch our movie.
Really shoehorned in.
Give us millions.
China only lets in, because of their censorship laws, China only lets in like 20-something foreign films. They only allow a certain number per year to be shown. So that's is like
ludicrous.
I think that might be part of their trying to get into China as well. Like they have to get approved to be seen in China.
I had no idea.
They can't have any like thematic things that are like anti-government or like anti-authority. There's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a documentary about a dude who tried to make a movie in China, and it was funny, but talked about all the censorship and all that crap, which of course,
I just, Joe, to me, you can cut out if they make the next one, that's going to be.
She was
great.
fine though. I mean, she was a better character than.
Oh, you talk about subtext in like I didn't read he has something to hide with his glasses, Charlie Day's character, but that character, the head of Shiori Corporation boss woman, her hair is pulled up at the beginning, and the moment she goes to help them after Charlie Day's like reveal as the bad guy, she goes to the Jaeger site, the Shatter Dome or whatever it's called. Her hair's down, and I was like, oh, she's loosened up a bit. And then by the end of the movie, her hair's so down, it's almost in front of her face, and it does cover up part of it. So I'm like, okay, you can't get any looser.
She lets her hair down, man.
Suddenly she's opened up.
Yeah, that's what they do in those 90s teen comedies when the girl suddenly becomes pretty after like getting a makeover. She lets her hair down.
Takes her glasses
off. She lets her hair down. That's what happened in this movie, Drew.
Are you saying we haven't evolved past that type of
I mean, if you did that blatantly without like undercutting it with some humor, making fun of it, you would have problems.
Yeah.
In a modern audience.
You have to be self-aware.
You got to wait like 30 years before you can do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a sub-story. That's my final verdict. It's a sub-story in the universe of Pacific Rim. You don't need it because it doesn't add anything. But the ending of the film, where John Boyega is talking to Charlie Day and they're going to come to the precursors, that's a film I want to see. Sure. That's one that I want that will add things. It will go somewhere. And this one has some fights I liked.
I just assumed, honestly, Drew, that the aliens were going to come back somehow.
That's what I supposed was happening when suddenly rifts were being opened up around the world. And in my brain, because this happened twice in the movie, when the rifts
I thought that's what the plot was going to be before I went and saw the movie.
When the rifts were being opened up, I'm like, no. There are all these rifts being opened up. They don't have enough Jaegers. There's no way they can fight these. And then the rifts were closed and only 3 came out. So I'm like, that's how they saved it, so that it can be an equal battle between Jaegers and a couple of really big kaiju. So it's still like a little bit more on the kaiju side.
I mean, that's like another thing where the threat level would have been higher and the movie would have been just inherently more dramatic.
Yes, exactly. They have to figure out some way to fight them.
All right.
The last thing.
Okay, one last thing. I'll let you say the final words.
Well,
they know my opinion.
When the pig, it's bad.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's not good.
When the big monster makes its final gasp, post being knocked into by Gypsy Avenger, like being that basically atomic blast, like the sound wave coming off of him. He's like roars one more time. I was like scrambling in my head. What can they do to fight him now? What can they do to fight him now? And then he dies. I was like, thank goodness he died.
Oh, and he's cut in half. Oh, that was a cool part.
Yeah.
There was a couple cool shots. There was a part where the girl was like standing up and they did a giant Michael Bay swing around shot. I thought that was pretty cool.
That was the 360 effect shot I was talking about.
Yeah.
The one that worked for me was the Charlie Day on top of the roof when the monster walks past.
I
was like,
pretty
special
cool
effects went to like the greatest heights.
It totally happened in Godzilla 2000, but I mean, I'll let it happen. It probably happened before then.
But the effects look better, dude. Even when you're watching Pacific Rim 1, those effects don't look as good.
Are the effects better than it?
They're way better, man. They're so much better, man.
That $4 million movie from 1999 versus this one.
Kong Skull Island's effects are what really sold me, because I was like, this is trying to show us in not in a 3D engine, real life stuff, and it looks superb.
The director, I follow that guy on Twitter, the guy with the huge beard.
Jordan Vogt Roberts?
Yeah, Jordan Vogt Roberts.
Vogt GT. VOGT.
Vogt Roberts, maybe. Follow him on Twitter.
Guy.
He asks a lot of like...
He's a smart dude.
Hey, what are some movies where like they have a power, but they don't... the movie doesn't show it till midway through, and it was totally normal and cool. And like, he's working on Metal Gear Solid right now, and he's freaking out.
Oh,
that's
gotcha.
what it is. Like, he's making them.
He's drawing inspiration.
Trying
from
so
stuff.
hard to make that Metal Gear Solid movie good, and unfortunately, I mean, I hope for the best.
Hey, he's besties with Hideo Kojima, so
yeah.
he's got a big project he's working on. So
yeah,
if anyone can make the movie work, it's got to be the creator of it, I would hope.
I don't think that's necessarily
But at the same time, he made a video game, not a movie, so may not translate.
Well, here's the thing that scares me about that.
Metal Gear Solid.
With Metal Gear Solid,
okay,
is that the game is already so cinematic.
Yes, I was about to say, aren't the games essentially movies with the amount of cutscenes in them?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
The problem is also that game, especially that first one that they're probably basing it on, that game is super derivative of other movies, of James Bond. Same with the way that Tomb Raider is super derivative of Indiana Jones.
Yeah. So
when you make a derivative work of a derivative work, I think you're going to come out with either something. I think the movie's probably going to be pretty lukewarm.
So you're saying
but also on top of that, you have this 8-hour story that is already animated and voiced, and so you as the audience probably already saw the movie.
Yeah.
Now you're just going to see a shortened, tightened, less character developed version of that thing, and you're going to be disappointed. It doesn't matter. I feel so bad for that guy.
Are you explaining why video game movies don't work?
I am explaining why that one definitely won't.
Oh, okay.
Well, excuse me. I hope it does work, but I highly doubt it.
When you say derivative of something derivative, do you mean Indiana Jones is this immaculate statue, and then you get Tomb Raider, which is a rock, and then you get the derivative of the derivative, and it's just a bunch of sand?
Just a bunch of sand. Yeah, actually, yeah, totally.
Sand is not as good looking as a sculpture.
I don't know.
It's
it's tough.
We've talked about style, and we're going to talk about that in the Godzilla 84 commentary, Joe. But style is something that is wholly unique, that comes out of left field and is like not derivative of anything of its time, and it either lands or it doesn't. And when something stylistic lands, in my mind immediately I'm just thinking Nirvana, because it comes out of left field and it suddenly becomes like encompasses the world and everybody's obsessed with it. Something that happens, something that becomes something that huge and stylistic and beloved will never be derivative of anything. It can't be something that's derivative of something else. Otherwise, people will immediately call it off as, well, this is just like that. The grunge movement.
I don't know how to respond to that statement, but I do. I'm scared for him. I'm scared. I'm like, that'd be such a... Because I've been thinking...
I love Jordan Vogt Roberts. I hope that his career continues.
I've been thinking of like, how would you make that into a 2-hour experience that's satisfying? I'm just can't come up with anything.
You're the one that on Nude Clan has sat through all these video game movies, man. They are poor.
It's tough.
They are poor.
Honestly, Tomb Raider is the greatest video game movie of all time. The one that's out in theaters right now. And you know what?
It's not.
It's okay.
It's an okay movie.
It's better than this movie.
All right. I don't have anything else to say.
Okay. All right. Guys, enjoy Pacific Rim. I heard some people on Twitter liked it. So, yeah, it's not just going to be the negative opinion from me.
No,
you might like
it. I like it more than Joe does. Go see it so that we can have more monster movies that are better than it. Respond to it in a way, as in by going to it, so that studios will say, hey, we need to make another one of these movies to make money. And hopefully the next one will land better. It'll land better than the Gypsy Avenger into that giant kaiju at the end. killing it. Keep it G.